The man who lived 1,000 years. There was great excitement in the Kim courts. The new year, best of all holidays, was approaching. The big teakwood lanterns were getting their new flowered paper paint. The beeswax candles were being counted. The needles of the women were flying to finish the New Year clothes for the family. White silk padded jackets, trousers, and skirts for the women and men, and bright green, red, and purple winter garments for the young children. Yongtu and Okesha and their cousins also were busy. The little girls were making bright paper flowers, and the boys were putting the finishing touches on their kites for the New Year contests. And as usual, Harmony's room was the center of most of the family activity. One afternoon, when everyone sat there, bent over his work, Kim Dong-chin, Harmony's second son, came seeking his mother. "Here are the 4 pieces of the gate charm, Omoni," he said. "Shall I bind them up for you?" "The thorn branches, the straw ox shoe, the foxtail grass, the salt bag. Hey, they are all here." The old woman nodded her head in satisfaction as she examined with critical eyes the curious collection before her. "Hey, bind them up." Yongtu laid his kite down with great care and helped his uncle to tie the thorn wood, the ox shoe, and the foxtail grass inside the old salt bag. They made a neat packet about as long as an ironing club. When the boy followed the man to the outer court, where the charm was firmly fastened above the bamboo gate. "Why do we put such things over our gate, Harmony?" Yongtu asked his grandmother when he had returned to his kite making. "Why else but to keep the bad spirits away, stupid boy? No charm is more powerful than this one. Each year a new gate charm must be made, lest the old one should be worn out by the wind and the weather and have perhaps lost its strength. I do not mean to be caught napping without such a charm, like old Tong Pang Suk. He had already lived for over 1,000 years, but if he'd held fast to his bundle of thornwood and ox shoe, salt bag and foxtail, he'd no doubt be living still." A man who lived 1,000 years, Harmony?" Okesha questioned, her narrow black eyes shining with amazement. "Some say Tong Pak Suk lived 10,000 years, precious ones, but my father declared that was far too long. 1,000 years he lived surely. It probably happened because someone was careless in the Heavenly Emperor's Hall of Recording. There were kept the books of life in which all men's names are written down, so that the judges can determine the time for each one to be brought to the Jade Emperor's heavenly kingdom. Perhaps it happened that the pages for Tong Pang Suk were stuck together, or perhaps the judges turned them too fast before the book was put away behind the panels. But, whatever the reason, that old man's name was overlooked and no messenger was sent to take his spirit away from the earth. Even when Tong had lived out the full course of a man's life, no summons came. What could he do? He grew no older, for he was old as a man could be. He simply lived on and on, 100, 200, 300 years. The friends of his childhood, long since departed to the distant shore, missed their old neighbor Tong. How is it?" they said to one another, and to the Jade Emperor as well. "How is it that Tong Pang Suk remained so long on the earth? 100, 200, 300 years more, it was before his pages in the Book of Life were found, and a messenger was finally sent to bring Tong Pang Suk up to heaven. That messenger was a spirit, of course, but he took on the form of a man. Like Chung, the blind beggar's daughter, he disguised himself in the garb of a mourner. Hidden under his great hat, he wandered over the earth, looking for Tong. By this time, Tong had become used to his great age. His days were calm, without wind and without cloud, and he spent most of them on the bank of a stream, lost in the pleasures of fishing. The old man had no wish to die. His greatest fear was that the heavenly messenger might one day catch up with him. Each 60 years he took on a new name and he sought a new village so that he could not be traced. But always he fished. Somehow, the spirit messenger heard of this old man who sat always fishing on a riverbank. He thought perhaps this might be one whom he sought, and he set a trap for him. Not far from where Tong fished, the spirit messenger threw many bags of charcoal into the river. Its black dust clouded the water so that it looked like ink paste. "Why did you do that foolish trick?" Old Tong inquired when he found the source of the blackness that was spoiling his fishing. "Oh, honorable grandfather, I'm just washing my charcoal. Soon it will be as white as the jacket you wear," the spirit replied. "Aye, aye," exclaimed Tong, shaking his head. "I have dwelt in this land for 900 years, but never before have I met a man foolish enough to think he could wash black charcoal white." The spirit was happy now, for he knew he had found the man he was seeking. He followed Old Tong wherever he went, hoping for a chance to carry him off to the other world. So close did he keep to the old man's heels that Tong Pang Su guessed who he might be. "You are brave, learned sir," Tong said to his spirit companion one day. "The country roads here are dangerous. Are you not afraid to travel so far upon them?" "I fear not the country roads, nor any dangers upon them," replied the spirit, who in truth was not nearly so quick-witted as Tong. "There are but 4 things on this earth that I greatly fear, and wherever they are, there I am not." "What are the 4 things the great man fears?" Tong asked politely. A branch of a thorn tree, the shoe of an ox, foxtail grass, and a salt bag. Those 4 put together would bring me to my doom." "And you, venerable father?" the spirit asked in his turn. "What do you fear the most?" Now Tong, for he was so old, was crafty and wise. "The things I fear most of all," he said to the spirit, "are roast suckling pig and the bear called Macaulay." Marvels come to man more often than you may think, my children. And a marvel happened that day. Suddenly, beside their path, Old Tong saw foxtail grass growing beneath a thorn tree. By the side of the road near it, he found a cast-off straw ox shoe and an old empty salt bag. Gathering up the shoe and the bag, the old man quickly left the road and took refuge beneath the thorn tree. He plucked a thorn branch from over his head. He gathered some foxtail grass from under his feet. Thus quickly he completed the charm, and he tied all 4 parts of it into a bundle, just like the one on our gate. From a safe distance, the unhappy spirit begged the old man to come forth from under the thorn tree. He wept and he raged, but he dared not approach because of the charm. Then the spirit remembered Old Tong's words about the things he feared most. He went off to the village and fetched a roast suckling pig and a jug of Macaulay beer. These he flung at Old Tong, hoping to drive him out of this refuge. Instead, to his amazement, the spirit saw the old man eating the roast pig with great gusto and drinking the Macaulay beer with delight. He shook his head in bewilderment, and he gave up this idea of whisking Tong up to heaven that day. But the spirit messenger was not yet beaten. He did not fly back to heaven and give up his quest. For 100 years more he waited and watched, hoping Tong would forget to carry with him the bundle he has made of the thornwood and the foxtail grass, the ox shoe and the salt bag. At last the spirit's messenger patience had its reward. One day the old man did forget his good charm as he set forth to fish, and the spirit carried him off to the heaven realm. Since then, all people who know the secret of Tong and his charm use this way of making sure of protection from evil spirits. It does not keep them from going to the heavenly kingdom when the time comes, but it drives many bad spirits away from their courts. Find me a house in all this street of ours without such a gate charm, and I'll show you a family with whom bad luck dwells.